I say all these people, no offense to this investor, I'm trying to make X amount of dollars so I can quit my job. But no one's ever asking the question of like, how can I impact the world so that it can be a better place? And I think people don't ask really good questions. They just think selfishly. They're like, once I leave my W-2, I'll be a better person.
Welcome to the Small Steps, Big Wins podcast, where I'm dedicated to helping you take control of your life. I'm Sue Saller, and I'm excited to be your host on this journey. I'll be bringing you inspiring stories, practical tips, and expert advice to help you overcome obstacles, set and achieve your goals, and live the life you've always wanted. Together, we'll discover that making small changes is not only possible, but can lead to big results. Join me now as we explore the power of positive thinking, the art of goal setting, and strategies for success. Are you ready? Let's go do this. Welcome to the Small Steps, Big Wins podcast. And I have today with me Mike Taravella. Mike has built an impressive commercial real estate portfolio and personally manages over $81 million in assets. Mike is a former CPA and uses his gift for numbers as he is known for his underwriting prowess. I have personally engaged Mike in conversations around real estate and found his no-nonsense, no-bull approach to real estate sobering and, in a sense, comforting. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Sue, happy to be on and super excited. I know we just, being part of Emerge has been a lot of fun, and I hope the sobering hasn't scared you off, but we keep having conversations about real estate. So I'd rather keep it real than flex a Lamborghini that I rented. So it's all good.
This is true. This is true. No, keeping it real is good. Sobering's even better because being sober keeps you from doing stupid things. So I appreciate the reality check when I ask you a million questions. So I'm glad you're here. I can't wait to dive in. First of all, I want to dive into your superhero backstory. I mean, you came from CPA, now you're asset manager with Quantum Capital. A lot has gone in between. So just share with your journey how you got from point A to point B.
Well, as every good story starts, see what had happened was my family was educators or worked for Chrysler. And so it was literally like, go to school, get good grades, get a job. So I went to Michigan State to get accounting because I was good at math and never wanted to be a teacher because my mom was a teacher. I'm like, they work way too hard and don't get paid enough. And so I was like, I've always wanted to do business since like first grade. So I went through, I took an accounting class in high school. I was really good at it. I'm like, oh, I'll just do that. And then went through my undergrad at Michigan State and my master's at Michigan State. And, I got the entrepreneurial bug because I created a screen printing business in college. And I'm like, oh, this clicked of like, oh, starting something from nothing was like just the coolest feeling ever. Like people around campus wearing our shirts. We're doing faculty shirts. Oh, wow. We did Central Michigan shirt. Like we did 20,000 in sales in 9 months without any marketing.
How'd that make you feel to get at 20,000 in sales? I mean, being in college. I mean, that's.
Well, this was like towards the end of my academic career, so I was well connected, and all my friends hated going out with me because they're like, Mike knows everyone. I'm like, I just go to class. I don't know what about you guys, but I just go to class and just talk to people, which I'm sure everyone's shocked by who actually knows me. But it was just a good time, just being well connected and just doing sales and that. And I'll never forget the conversation with Professor Isabel Wang. I shot her out because she changed my life and I didn't know it in the moment. But I'm like, hey, am I going to like accounting and public accounting? And she laughed in my face. And this is the week of graduation from my master's. I've already sat for 3 parts of the CPA exam. Oh, gosh. Pot committed to say I already accepted a job in public accounting like 3 years earlier. And she laughed in my face and she's like, your risk profile is unlike any other accountants, so no. So I did 2 years in Big Four public accounting. It was not my cup of tea, but I learned a lot of just like, hey, the bigger companies that are on the publicly traded, you may think that they're perfect, but they have errors in systems and just seeing what works, what doesn't work. And then from there, worked with Dan Gilbert, who's the billionaire owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers and Quicken Loans, Rocket Mortgage. And I got to help launch like an esports team that I'm wearing right now, 100 Thieves. So I was kind of just the team to help get them off the ground and just really systemize. Because when we started our screen printing business, we had no systems. And a lot of entrepreneurs struggle by not having systems. So did that for 2 years and then got the opportunity to work. And in that time with Dan Gilbert, I bought 2 single family houses, and I was a terrible landlord. On top of, I got sick of raking 27 bags of leaves in the fall. I was like, there's got to be a better way. There has to be a better way, because I'd have to wait 6 months, get my money, put into a deal, and then I'm like, all right, now I have to wait and just keep going. And I'm like, this sucks a lot. And then took about a year off, educating, networking my face off, averaging 4 hours of sleep, which I don't recommend, but I hated accounting that much. And I got the opportunity to work for Ram Property Management, which is Jake and Gino's investing platform. And I still coach for them, worked for them for 3 years, and then recently left July of last year on my own, and then partnered with Quantum Capital. And I'm looking for deals in Tennessee, Denver, North Carolina, and up to 81 million in assets under management, 664 doors. But most of those are syndications where you have partial ownership. So I always say my first deal, I own a half a bathroom in Lexington, Kentucky. I have like a couple doors. It's just like, it all equates out to like having a lot less doors, but the social media warriors are flexing on how many units they have. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Never tells you what fraction they have behind that.
Exactly. So I'd rather tell you that the half a bathroom in Lexington, Kentucky is doing well. I don't clean it. Thank God we have property management to do it.
All right. There was a lot in that story. I want to pause for a minute. I want to go back to college when your professor laughed in your face and she knew your disc profile. So do you remember what was part of your disc profile that would not have made you a good accountant and that made her laugh?
I am off the charts So I am like people. I talk to people all the time. I get validation from others. I am social, but like even in this industry, I've learned of just like having to constantly follow up with people, and just like even telling a broker I'm not going to offer the deal that they want, I struggle with. So I'm like off the charts attention to detail, not quite there, which I know everyone's like, but you're an accountant and you're good at underwriting. I'm like, yeah, but it's so systemized, and so it's not as crazy as it has to be.
Okay. And then connect the dots a little bit more. How did you wind up meeting or getting involved with Dan from the Mavericks and Quicken Loans? And
yeah, it's all who you know, right? So having that entrepreneurial startup, I love Shark Tank, and my buddy was working in that group, and he's like, Mike, this is the perfect job for you, and it'd be a shame if you didn't have it. And I'm like, yep. So when I was living Big Four, I was like, all the stars aligned, and worked with 12 to 14 startups as anywhere from like CFO, biz dev, controller, payables, therapist, psychologist, marketing, whatever I could do to help startups get off the ground or optimized so that they could be as highly performing as possible. So that's when I see a T12, no matter the industry, because of my public accounting experience, I get to see where the problems are, where the opportunities for growth are, and what we can do differently to just operate better.
Okay. And then, is that where systems come in? Because you mentioned before that you noticed these people, they didn't have good systems, and that as you started developing systems, you could see how to make things, I'm assuming, more efficient. Yes. Is that what systems, how did you learn, or was there anything that you read that was system based, or is it something that you just figured out?
Yeah, so like when it comes to screen printing, we just didn't know how much stuff costs. Like The Profit, the TV show, like everyone talks about Shark Tank, but I think it's The Profit with that's where they like, how much does it cost to make one shirt or this thing or to make this widget? And so sure enough, I just was like, I don't know how much money we're making. And if I run the company and I don't know how much money we're making, that's not good. So I just literally was looking at that as like, okay, let me learn from this. And just kind of like, I looked at entrepreneurs as like, we all do, like every startup tries to be this unicorn of, no one's ever done it like this. But at the same day, like everyone makes a product or delivers a service and gets money in, and it costs X amount of dollars to make that. And everyone's in different phases and tries to overcomplicate or overhires. But at the end of the day, like if I make a water bottle for $5 and I sell it for $3, we're not going to be in business very long. And so I just try to break, and people overcomplicate business. So I just try to dumb it down as much as possible.
Mike, is there one thing that you can point to that you didn't think was going to have a big impact on your life, but you kind of realized one day that it turned into a big thing and you went, holy crap, I'm here because I did this?
Yeah. So there's a couple, like a lot of people to thank along the way. It all kind of started in Mother's Day 2019. I go to, or no, 2018, or no, whatever. 2018, 2019 Mother's Day. I didn't hang out with my mom. I went to John Kasman's Midwest Real Estate Conference in Chicago. I made that decision that weekend, and I'm an only child. And I go, I'm moving to Chicago to be closer to all of these people because they're doing multifamily and they're making money and doing deals. Like, it wasn't a fluffy conference. So I went to that conference, got to be closer to people. And from February 1st of 19, I worked 10 to 2 a.m. every single day until literally my body collapsed, like Friday night where I slept. Like, I'd go to the gym at 6. I was in Chicago. I was underwriting for free, doing podcasts, writing blogs. I was doing everything in my power to get in the door.
Wow.
And so when people are like, oh man, I want to be the equity partner and do this and do that, I go, I worked for free as a CPA, underwriting deals for groups, promoting meetups, introducing investors, like doing everything for $0. And that's always been my favorite thing, is like, work for free for 6 months, because if you do that, you'll get into deals. Trust me. But not when many people are willing to make that sacrifice. And I know some can, but if you're sub 30 years old with no mortgage, like, do that. And then from there, because of that, I went to the Best Ever Conference, met a bunch of people. And then Jake and Gino, I got connected with them and got to work for them in acquisitions, asset management, help their property management, and got to partner with them on a lot of deals. So I thank them for taking the risk on me, because a lot of the times our team was like, I don't know what this guy does, but like, he keeps telling us how to do it like a little bit better, and just like working on our system so that we could be the best managing group too. So John Kasman helped kind of just see me the light of multifamily and just helped me make the leap to Chicago, which my mom did not like the move there. And then Jake and Gino, I took the leap in 2020 there and worked for them for several years, and still coach for their education platform. And without them, I wouldn't be here talking to you. So it's been very thankful for those 3 people in my life, because a lot of my friends were like becoming managers in public accounting, and I was underwriting deals to 2 a.m. So it all works out in weird ways.
It does. And you know what? You said it started in 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. This is only 4 years ago. You accomplished.
Feels like a lot longer.
Feels like a lot longer. Yeah, I know. But you look back at it, it's like, wow, look at where you were 4 years ago. Go back where you were 5 years ago, or even
I was getting fired
ago.
from my accounting job in Chicago that I don't really talk about a ton, but I got a notice from a headhunter going, hey, do you want this job? And it was my verbatim job title for description for the company that I'm like, I have this job. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. And then the next day was Jake and Gino. 3 weeks later, moved to Knoxville. And here we are.
Well, it was kind of fate, but it was a good fate.
It doesn't feel like fate. In the movies, they don't tell you, you're like, holy shit, I'm getting fired. But it doesn't feel
it was like
it was
like, leaving your W-2, like everybody else talks about. I'm just going to leave my W-2. It's all good. Well, you just got it. It just was
accelerated. Asked politely to not come back.
Right. It was the accelerated, I'm leaving my W-2. Right.
Yeah. Now, at first, eyes closed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Ready, fire, aim, right?
Yeah.
So in this one, I'm wondering, your single families, not the multis, the single families, what happened in between? So you had these single families. What happened to those? Did they drop off, or do you still have them?
I sold one the first year because it was me and my business partner went into the idea of like, we will never sell. And we had an inkling one time. And then like we bought the first one for like 62,000. And then we sold it for like 100. And we're like, oh my God. Like we kind of just were like, if we ever think about selling again, we're selling. So we sold the first one, and then the next year we sold the second one, and it was like the first one was a pain because the person was like, it was in the middle of COVID. We kept the resident in because we wanted to protect them, but it was just like it was the whole process. The little that I'm like, man, this sucks so bad. We're gonna wait until the resident leaves and then fix it. The second one was worse because the property just like they trashed it. Like imagine if like they lived there for 3 years, we never really checked on it. So if you're still doing single family, check on your units. But if I gave you one paint roller and 4 gallons of different colored paint, and I said paint this house, it was the worst. We think they took a car engine and dropped it on the stairs to the basement. All the windows were open in like the fall of Michigan, which isn't ideal. And like we got it under contract to sell, and the day before they backed out, and it was just like I was like, whatever and it was terrible because you're like, I can't do anything because and I trust my real estate agent with everything because they're really savvy and smart and well connected. But for me, I'm like, I don't want to like if I put money in, I'm gonna lose it because it's not gonna regain its value because there's just that weird time where just everything went up except my house. But we made money on the cash flow for 3 years, and we still made money on the exit. So we made good money, but it was definitely a learning lesson of like, I should never be a landlord ever again.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that story because a lot of investors think they all have to start out at single family. I'm not a real estate person until I own like a single family and another one and another one, another one. So I appreciate that story and hearing you say that I'm not built to be a landlord, so
It's
I'm
a lot of
glad.
work that
Yeah.
I
For a
didn't
little
budget
return.
for, and nor did I want to do it.
So do you find now multifamily easier in a sense than single family, or just harder in a different way?
I would say harder in a different way, right? So I think in 2019 values were lower. I think painting the picture of starting my career because it's easy to say like you buy it and it goes up. We've had this conversation offline. It's like, hey, every group is selling after 18 months. Why? It's like, well, because the cap rates have compressed so bad. So why did that happen? So 2019, the Fed was supposed to raise rates going into 2020. I think it was scheduled 4 times was the indicator. But what happened? COVID 2020, interest rates went to zero. So literally financial institutions were like, we have so much capital locked in, we have to spend it. And in low interest rates environment, like literally they're like, we'll throw it at all of real estate. But
It's
if you
like
look at
free
real
money.
estate, yeah, for them
Yeah,
it is.
it's free
right?
money. Low interest rate is free money. Yeah.
Yeah. And so retail got hurt, office got hurt, industrial boomed, office or multifamily boomed. And so like when you're a private equity, you're the Blackstones, you're the like these large institutions. They're like, do I do industrial and try to figure that out? Or I look at apartments and go, this is renting for 1,800 or 800 and next door is renting for 1,000. Multifamily is like, I think a lot of people overcomplicate it, but it's like, what's the difference between you and market and how much work do you have to put in? So when debt is zero, everyone flooded. And so if you even look at the 50 states, the Northeast fled to Tennessee and Florida, California fled to Nevada and Texas. The Midwest went down south. So it's like literally of the 50 states, there's like 5, like Arizona, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, and like maybe Nevada, but like those were the 5 markets that just popped off. And a lot of those states were more business friendly, no state income tax. And it's just like, so like if you think about it, all these financial institutions looked at the 50 states, went down to 5, and then all focused on multifamily. So everyone in 2019 was like, oh, 100 plus units, that's what we're looking for. And then private equity and family offices came in, started taking that tranche. So then everyone else kind of got crunched down, buying smaller.
So what would your advice be? So I'm thinking about the question of the person who doesn't want to have the single family home or want to manage their own. What advice would you give to someone if they wanted to start off in passive investing real estate? There's no fast track in real estate per se, but I want to skip all that stuff and go this route. What would your advice be?
I would say passive is just the way to go. Like return on effort. Like if Sue were to invest in my deal, she gets to literally just do a podcast, hang out, maybe have a margarita, a cocktail, and like she's getting paid first. I, as the general partner, weekly calls with the property manager. I was on the phone with our water company because we have a leak, scheduling rotor rooter. Residents are calling me trying to move into different units. I get that call. Sue doesn't. Like the return on
Well,
effort for Sue is zero. It's like infinite because she's like,
well, why? Well, then why do you want to be you then? What makes you like? What
because
drives you to do what you do and not want to be me and be the passive person?
yeah, I think I mean, it's easy to look at numbers and be like, hey, there's a discrepancy in the market. But I think like
Mhm,
our passion for our group is like reviving communities. So
mhm,
I'm from Detroit. Everyone makes fun of Detroit. And, I always use the analogy of like people are like, oh, it's so cheap. It's got to be a good deal. And I go, come to Detroit. You can buy a house for $500. Doesn't mean you should. But behind that is more of like, hey, we want to fix the neighborhood. We want to fix the block. We want to help Detroit. We want to help grow. And so that's, even though I've left Detroit, that's never left. And I just seeing these communities where the owners don't care, the management doesn't care, they don't treat them like people. Like it's just like it's a very tough business. And at the end of the day, we're dealing with people. And I know if I can help impact a community and make it better and lively and just that home feel, I will do much better than everyone else. Does that mean I will have gray hair before most people? Probably. But it's that passion of just making things better. So if I
How
can provide affordable, clean housing to people, and safe, affordable, clean housing, I can know that I've helped the world be a better place.
would you say that's what drives you then? It's not the money. It's about what you're building and what you're intrinsically getting out of what you do. That gets you up
It's
in the
all about
morning,
impact,
right?
right? So like working with Dan Gilbert, it's not like he did mortgages to make money. Like he wanted to make the home buying process easier.
Mhm,
And once you remove yourself from like needing the money,
mhm,
because I say all these people, no offense to this investor, I'm trying to make X amount of dollars so I can quit my job. But no one's ever asking the question of like, how can I impact the world so that it can be a better place? And I think
mhm,
people don't ask really good questions. They just think selfishly, they're like, once I leave my W 2, I'll be a better person. And I get it's different if you're like, I can't eat today, but if you have a good W 2 and you're investing in properties, like that's a very different, right?
mhm,
I think
right.
everyone can make an impact, no matter if it's like donating a dollar or an hour of time. But feed your family. But I think like a lot of people don't ask powerful questions, and that's where the real magic happens. Is like,
Mhm,
what is your jam? How can you make the world a better place? I
mhm,
can't answer that for you, but
right.
it's just whatever you intrinsically want to do.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about made me think of a friend of mine made a quote, told me a quote one time. He said, once you remove greed and fear, movement forward happens much more quickly. And that's what it sounds like for you. You know, you have a passion to revive places, remove yourself from it, remove the money from it, and then look at all the opportunities that are before you. And
Yeah.
I think that's
Well, even helping
fantastic. And that's,
investors, right?
yeah,
Like if
right.
I
Or
help
yeah.
my investors first, they're gonna want to pour more money. If I
Mhm,
help this community, that broker, like I named my first deal I did outside of my job, I named the property after the broker. That broker thinks of me because I made an impact on him,
mhm.
right? The investors are like, wow, that's a good idea. I'm doing it
So
with
they're gonna
yours.
invest. Yeah, yeah, and I
So
think from the investors too, I mean, not every investor is the same, right? So somebody like me, I work a 40-hour week, I've got a podcast going on. I'm not sure I'm have the capacity from a time perspective to even deal with a 10-unit multifamily. You know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind that as well, especially if your property manager is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So for some
what?
people, yeah, yeah, we know about that too. You know, it's and you know, it might make more sense for somebody to invest passively. But to your point, what I really like about what you said is that it's not just doing the deal, it's the reason behind the deal. You know, your
Yeah.
drive behind the deal isn't just to, "Hey, I'm gonna make money on the deal," which is important. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's why you do a deal. You're not going to do a bad deal, but what drives you is that you can make an impact. And I think that pours over, and correct me if I'm wrong, that would pour over into your investors as well. They would see that, hey, Mike's doing this, and then, I believe in what Mike's doing, so I'm going to get behind him and go that route as well. So I think this is a good segue into Value Add Mike. Where did Value Add Mike come from?
Yeah, it came from a lot of alone time just thinking. No one can spell my last name correctly the first time. And I aspire to eventually do other business lines. And so for me, I want to be able to add value to Sue and the listeners and to everyone, like investors, active or passive. And I know the more value I put out and add value, then it'll come back in karma. So Value Add Mike is probably one of my best branding things I've ever done. And I'm very happy it's working. So it kind of came to me because Multifamily Mike was too low of scope. But it kind of goes back to the impact, right? So if I can help startups, business owners, operators with the systems I create, then I think I can make the world a better place.
Value Add Mike. I love it. I think that's great. You mentioned before that your parents were teachers, and my dad was in business. I'm a former teacher, and that mentality that you mentioned about, go out, get a stable job, go to college, graduate, and do that job for the next 30 years,
at least.
That's a long time. And my question is this: if anyone is in real estate for like 5 minutes, all right, they know that real estate is a space full generally of entrepreneurs and people who are ambitious. So going from the background that you had, what limiting beliefs did you have to overcome to get to where you are in real estate? Because there's a lot of, I would say, uncertainty is the wrong word, but there's a lot of
gray.
risk.
Yeah, I mean, I was in my public accounting job, and people are like, "Well, who would want to partner with you?" My ex-girlfriend was talking to like, "Hey, shouldn't you stick to being an accountant, not an investor? Like, why don't you buy our first house?" Like, so I think it's just like I was just surrounded by people who didn't serve me or understand what I wanted, and that just like, I thought 2 houses was good enough. I thought I was doing good with 2 houses. I'm like, that's $400 a month, maybe. You're one resident not paying, or a hot water heater going away from having no monies. So I think just the limiting beliefs, it just kind of went in phases. Like, I'm an accountant, I'm too conservative, I'm this, to then it evolved of like, I can't go out on my own. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't. There's a lot of crazy stuff that are like even my 36 unit that I've been working on for 2 years, I believed it was a good deal, and all of my partners were like almost $1 million off, and I convinced them to go up to our purchase price, and we won the deal. And I was like, oh, with enough conviction, I got people to believe in me. So it's
wow.
So like you will never feel ready. There'll never be like at X, I'll feel Y. You will know that moment when it comes, and it sounds super cliche and in the movies, but like, don't wait for John Brooks and GoBundance said it. It's like I've never known anyone successful doing like 10 different things. So like commit to the thing and just go. Because I've seen like a lot of people are like, I have an Amazon store and I'm trying to do multifamily and I'm trying to flip a house. And it's like, I mean, I was guilty of this when I left my job, trying to do too much. But I'm like, and you have a W-2. So it's like, you're just like exhausted, never making progress. And you have like a little, Brandon Turner said, it's like, you have a half-built sandcastle here and a bucket here. And it's like, it's all over the place.
Going everywhere, but nowhere.
Yeah. You're still on the beach going like, what the hell am I doing with my life?
How'd that make you feel? Like when people were telling you that, oh, you should just be a CPA, stay that for the rest of your life. That's nice and safe, because I could see some people could get caught on that and not overcome it. So you had to do something to break that mold. What did you do?
Probably moving to Chicago to be closer to like John Kasman and mentors. So,
Who you surrounded yourself with then?
yeah, because it's just like if you listen to like you suck every day, like I was a bad accountant objectively. Like I had partners at the firm go, "Hey, you're struggling." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. I know." And then like my girlfriend, and then my mom, and then like when I got my first single family house, my mom cried, not because it was a good decision, but because she's like, "You're gonna lose all of your money."
Oh,
So it's just like
terrible.
you had. I mean, we made money, but it's just like if you surround yourself with that much negativity, you're gonna just like and like you get lazy, right? You got two houses, you're like, I'm the man, but then you go in different rooms, you're like, oh, I don't have anything. So I think it just keep always leveling up your circles. And that happens all the time, right? Like in planting, you like prune and just like the people who don't serve you. I mean, I had people like, hey, all you talk about is work. And I'm like, yeah, because real estate's fun. It allows me to travel. It allows me to work remotely. Like last year, I was working in Germany, underwriting deals. It allowed me to like. It sucked for a while of just like, am I ever? And I'm like, am I ever gonna make money? Am I ever gonna make money? Am I ever gonna make money? And then like a refi happened. I'm like, oh, it works. This isn't just a pipe dream.
I was just ready to ask, when was that point where you kind of hockey sticked? When they talk about that, you're just coming along, and all of a sudden you wake up one morning and go, holy shit, like this really is working, right?
Yeah. So I think our first refi, so we bought a 48 unit with Rand, and it was just an amazing deal. It was like half occupied. Once again, the impact. The people were running out of money and couldn't fix units, so they didn't renovate any of them. We added 2 units. We refied it. That gave me that initial capital to invest. Because of that, and just kind of laying the groundwork of our foundation and investing in just like coaching for like the mindset. We did 4 deals in 40 days after that, and then on day 50, we did an agency refinance. So because of that first refi, I had the dry powder to invest in the next 4 deals, and then gave me another refi to invest in more deals. So it's just like it took 3 years to get to that point. Like it wasn't like, oh, like year 1, you're like, I have no idea what's happening, helping as much as I can and wherever. To year 2, you're like, oh, I kind of get it. Year 3 was like, I get it, and now I can see like the economic factors a lot more. And year 4, it's just like, how do we just like find flags much sooner? And so like it takes time, and it like a lot of time, like 16 to 18-hour days of like not talking to like people or like hanging out. And I don't want to be like, oh, look, grind. But like if you invest with your people and they can help pull you out of like ruts, on top of like, hey, let's go have fun. Like, let's go relax.
Yeah. Well, what you put in,
yeah.
like what you put in, you get out, right? So if you're, if you're going to sit around and be lazy, then don't expect a whole lot of return. Also,
yeah, but you also have to have fun too.
Well, yeah, no, you do. I mean, I understand.
As someone who literally like did not like, I did the best ever conference in 2019, and I literally slept for 42 hours and for 3 days after. And I was like, I go to my girlfriend, I'm like, I'm dying. And she goes, no, you idiot, you hit exhaustion. And I go, oh, I broke my body and spirit.
Yeah.
So it's like, like everyone has their own path. I just hated accounting that much that I was willing to kill myself. Did it create healthy work boundaries? No. But it got me to where I am. And that was the path I took, and I wouldn't change it. But there's easier paths, I promise.
Yeah. Well, I think when you're that driven, and I have to admit, probably young, you can do dumb. I want to say dumb things. You can do things like that when you're younger. I mean, I used to do that too. I did that too in my 30s and 40s. I mean, I'd get up, I'd run. I get up at 4:45 in the morning, and I'd run for an hour, and then I'd take care of kids, and then I'd go teach, or I'd go do something else, and then fall in bed at 11 o'clock at night, and then get up at 4:45 and do the same thing. Wash, rinse, repeat for years. I did that for years, and yeah, you're right. It catches up to you at some point. Just to circle back to your point about real estate, and I'm glad you brought this up. And I just want to pull this out a minute, that real estate doesn't always happen overnight, right? You said it took you a number of years to get to where you are. And I just want to emphasize, I can't emphasize that enough, really, because we live in this cookie cutter, microwave, instant information society. And it doesn't happen that way. And recently, I mean, just because of the economics of what's going on the last couple of years, you see all these kids, yeah, I made $3 million in the last 3 years doing real estate. Well, yeah, everybody else did because it all went up too, so
I mean, look at crypto.
I'm
I
glad,
mean, like
I'm
one
glad you
year I
brought that.
made like a a little bit on crypto, and then you're like, those people who made it that year, you go, what about this year? And then they
Mhm.
all shut up.
Get really quiet. Yep, they get
Yeah.
really quiet. This is true. What are some of your daily habits then that keep you going? Because you have a lot on your plate. You're busy.
Yeah. I've been
What
implementing
keeps you sane?
exercise a lot more. So when I used to be like 260, at least 270, probably when I didn't weigh myself, but I'd play basketball a couple times a week before work with Dan Gilbert. So I do that 2 to 3 times a week. And people are like, wow, Mike, you probably are really bad at basketball. And you are correct. But I literally treat it like a run all nonstop until I like can't. Um, and then just carving time out, like me and my girlfriend have been doing dance lessons for like 2 months, and that's
Oh,
been
nice.
awesome. But it's just like carving out like just movement in my day in terms of like go for a walk, go play basketball. Because back when I was working, it's like work out, work till 2 a.m., do again. And then my body just is like, I'm dead on the
Mhm.
inside. And so it's
Yeah.
like carving out movement and just like that's been a big piece. And just I listen to stand up because like I listen to stand up all the time. So it like helps keeps me sane and just like grounded of like don't take life too seriously because
Mhm.
like what's the point when it's all said and done and you're like I have 10,000 doors and I'm worth $1 billion and you're like yeah but you didn't do anything fun with it. So
So, bringing it back all together as we close, I've got 2 questions for you.
yeah, let's do it.
What parting words of wisdom do you have?
uh I would say to read Ray Dalio Principles, but to be a little because that book is like changed. I've read it 3 times, and every
Mm.
time I read it, I get a great thing. And it's a business book, but there's life stuff in it. But I'd say like trust yourself more. And I hate when every podcast is like believe in yourself and just like butterflies will come and whisk you away. It's like no,
No, they don't.
they don't. But like you can do it, and it's like you can do it as long as you believe in yourself and are surrounded by the right people.
Mhm.
So and if you do if you do the right thing every time to your investors, to your residents, to your people, to the people you work with,
Mhm.
you will get there. It will take time in their Instagram, TikTok, YouTube realm of life. It will take time, but it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. So
Mhm.
relax and just
Well
commit to
said.
the game, and you will be great.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Wonderful words of wisdom. And actually, you answered my other question, which was
Oh,
if
did
you were,
I?
yes, you did. If you were stranded on a desert island, what's the one book you would take with you? And you mentioned Ray Dalio's Principles. So I'm going to change the question. If you were stranded on the desert island, what's the other thing that you would have with you other than Ray Dalio's book?
uh, that's a tough one. It's got to be a big enough book that I can use as a tool.
Doesn't
Um,
have to be a book.
oh, it
I'll
doesn't
change.
have to be a book.
I changed the question just for you. It doesn't have to
I'm
be a
gonna
book.
I'm gonna do a book, right? Because I
Yeah.
think Principles was good. I think E-Myth is. I'd say probably E-Myth is another one. I'm trying to look at
Mhm.
my stack. I don't know. I think like
E-Myth is
Atomic Habits. We'll go Atomic Habits because
okay.
I think a lot of people get ingrained with a lot of the ideas of just like what to do. And I found most of my success in life is like if I call 5 to 10 brokers a day, I'll get a deal. Like a lot of people go, how do I get a deal? I go, call 10 brokers or 5, 3, pick a number and do that every day. You will get a deal. Because my favorite thing I always get is, Mike, there's no deals. And I go, how many brokers did you call today? And they go, 0. And I go, nailed it. You got it. You did it. You will get 0 deals if you call 0 brokers every time. So having those like simple KPIs and just having the habit to do those things, like playing basketball, all those things I found is just rooted on those habits. You do those every day, you will be successful. And then principles kind of just helps you think more. It's a deep, heavy book in terms of just like thought, but that's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be these 150, 200 pages of just like, here's how great I am for 150 pages and 50 pages of just good stuff. It's like, no, get to what's going on.
Sounds good. Mike, how can people find you other than at Value Add Mike, or is that where we're going to find you?
That's all the handles. That's another kind of big pick on the branding was like, oh, I could do this on all of them.
Perfect.
Twitter's probably the best platform. And I think everyone who hears this are like, oh, Twitter, redo your Twitter, get in the right circles that you want to be in, crypto, algorithms, kitties, whatever it is. You will surround yourself with people who are doing it or in it every day. And that's been my favorite group. And plus, like, no one wants to see me dancing on TikTok. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And then if you have any questions about our deals or upcoming opportunities, invest at valueaddmike.com. We can help schedule a call, answer any questions, and help you take over the world.
Awesome. I like the taking over the world part.
Yeah. Well, someone's got to do it before Putin does.
Well, we can do it one investor at a time. Mike, thanks so much. This has been fantastic. I hope you had fun.
Appreciate you. Yeah, I had a blast and appreciate you, Sue. And it's been cool seeing your growth and just coming into your own and just making your impact in the world. So appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I want to thank you for listening to my podcast. I value your time with me because I realize you could be listening to someone else right now. If you got any value or think someone else can benefit from what you heard, please spread the word, hit subscribe, and check out my website at www.suesaller.com. Remember, life doesn't get better by chance, it gets better by choice. Take small steps and make today awesome, friends. Have a great day and God bless.